This morning we've heard a lot about the challenges that are facing the industry, and there is no doubt that there are a lot of challenges, but I suppose it's really important that we keep that positive look on the medium to long term, because actually the medium to long term forecasts for the industry are positive. You know, if you look at the world tourism stats, and if you look at the European tourism stats and our own government policy, we are forecasting growth of about 3% year on year out to 2025. And I think food can play a key part of driving that, and I suppose I've had the pleasure of talking to you about a great initiative that came to life this year and was really brought to life by the industry, and that is Taste the Island, which is a celebration of Ireland's food and drink. And how did we get there? I suppose back in 2018 we had a look at Ireland's food and drink strategy, and this is our third delegated food strategy, which is interesting because destinations like Scotland have only just published their first food strategy, so we're actually leading the way in terms of tourism destinations on this. And I suppose the big challenge for us in Ireland is pre-visit. The visit doesn't have very high expectations of our food. In fact, they kind of have low expectations of our food. But what's really interesting is when they leave, they have this amazing feedback of, it was fantastic, it was absolutely great. And I suppose one of the things that we want to do is to change this, so move this perception of not really being seen as a great food destination to actually having food contribute to economic growth, and actually having these like really consistent food experiences delivered right across Ireland. And there's a really economic reason for that, and that's what it kind of comes down to here. Food has the potential to extend the season, it has the potential to really drive regionality, it has the potential to increase dwell time in locations, getting people to spend longer there, but most importantly for your businesses, it absolutely has the potential to drive the economic return into your individual businesses. So I suppose what was the idea that we came up with, and I suppose you know it, we've lived it for the last couple of months, but it was Taste the Island. And I think it's really important, I've been talking to a lot of people at the break about how did it go. It's really important for us to remember that this idea really came to be in January to February this year. So, you know, if you think about the turnaround time for this and what we've delivered in that time, it's actually phenomenal, and it's been a huge success. So basically when we designed this, we really used the visitor insights. So when you talk to the visitor, what is it that they want from a food experience? And so they want a real sense of a taste of place. So food actually bringing the culture of the place to life. They want to meet the maker, so they want to know who made the food and how it was made and the story behind that. They also want opportunities to make it themselves, to cook it. And then they also want food trails and network trails and festivals and events. So these are the 5 pillars that we set up in the Taste the Island. And key to the success of this was really mobilising the industry, because it was the industry that were going to deliver this on the ground. And these workshops rolled out in June of this year, 17 workshops right across the country, and we engaged over 1,000 industry. And we got really positive engagement, which was great, loads of brilliant ideas, and then we actually supported those ideas to develop them. I suppose the other key part of this was stakeholder partnerships, because it was a big ask. So we worked with key stakeholders like the Irish Hotel Federation, the Blue Book, B&B Ireland, the Restaurant Association, Irish Whisky 360, Good Food Ireland, and the Vintners Association. And we did specific activities and partnerships with all of those that really delivered great food and drink experiences across this whole campaign. In terms of the calendar of events, there was over nearly 775 food and drinks experiences across the calendar, and within that there was 50 headline events and 320 festival events from September to November. These events were spread right across the country, across Ireland's ancient east, Ireland's hidden heartlands, Dublin and Royal Atlantic Way. And I suppose just to really help and facilitate that with the industry, what we did was we developed an events portal so that anybody who was creating an event or doing something was able to register that, and then we could actually work with them to actually promote that. I suppose promotion was a really big part of this, and our focus in 2019 was very much the domestic audience, because this was a new idea, we really needed to establish it. So it had a real domestic focus in 2019. We will be looking at an international launch in 2020. But I suppose what we did then was we partnered with key media channels across Ireland. And I think the other thing that's really interesting about Taste the Island is it is the first All-Ireland key initiative. So, Northern Ireland were a part of this initiative. We were advertising our activity in Northern Ireland, and they were advertising their activity here. And we really did jointly work together and cross-promote the initiatives. But these are the kind of key partners, so key media partners as well as social media partners. And I suppose the other key piece that we did right across the campaign was we had a very heavyweight press campaign that we partnered with the IHF on, and what we were doing here was promoting accommodation and food experiences to really drive footfall, but also drive bed nights, because that's where we can get the biggest spend. We also did a TV campaign, so it was very important for us to drive the awareness, I suppose, at a domestic level. So we had a heavyweight TV campaign. So I suppose in terms of the media campaign, it was a heavyweight media campaign, as I mentioned. It had TV and it had press, but we also had radio and heavy social media. And I think the other piece that was really positive for us was we got really great PR engagement, both domestically and internationally. And here's just some of the examples. So again, I think Taste the Island was something that caught the imagination, not just of the industry and the consumer, but actually also the key media partners who were able to really spread that news. So there was quite a bit of PR coverage, yes, domestically, but we also got internationally with the likes of Lonely Planet, etc. So I suppose in summary for the 2019, there was an investment of marketing alone of over 1.5 million from Failte Ireland. The consumer reach of that was 97% of Irish adults did engage with the campaign. I think really positively though, we got massive engagement from industry. So over 1,000 businesses engaged and created over 330 dedicated food events. And back in January, I suppose what we were thinking about was how can we create something of scale, something that will really cut through and will make a difference, that people will really kind of sit up and think about. And if I'm honest, we didn't anyway anticipate that we would deliver that kind of scale in year one. So we've kind of over-delivered, I suppose, in terms of what was on the ground. I think the other key piece that we were doing, while we didn't launch it to the consumers internationally at Mehel this year, we did actually have a very specific, we had a dedicated food buyer's guide, and we had over 180 food and drink experiences in there. And I suppose again, if you're looking at Taste the Island from a Failte Ireland perspective, it was really about driving economic growth into businesses. So it was about creating saleable experiences that could be contracted and can drive economic return. And I suppose for some in this industry, that was quite a new thing. They didn't have saleable experiences. They had experiences that people could engage with, but they weren't actually paid for. And so we did a lot of work in developing the industry to help them understand actually how these experiences are valued by the consumer and how they could actually pay for them, or how they could charge for them and still deliver good value. I think the other piece that we had was an innovation grant scheme. So we were about creating new ideas. So I mean, if you look at the area around here, I know people from West Cork, we supported the Taste of West Cork, and here in Kerry the Listowel and Dingle food festivals. But I suppose it was also about innovation and creating new ideas. So the Come On Sea Fest was one here in Kerry, as was the Skellig 618, which was an autumn series of gin schools and food fairs. So again, this whole initiative was about creating new ideas and actually creating sort of new news and talkability. And as I say, that we funded 24 dedicated Taste the Island events in 2019 and created a lot of publicity. So I suppose in summary of 2019, it was a great year. I want to say thank you to the industry, to all of our partners, because actually I think together and by working together and collaborating, we created an amazing event. I think the important thing is it's not a one-year event. We said from the outset that we would be looking to support this for a minimum of 3 years. So if we look into 2020, what are we going to do? I think this business support program, we ran this in 2019, but it's really important for us to continue to work with the industry to develop that long-term food offering. So it's really about working with industry to create that taste a place. We know from our consumer insights, particularly the culturally curious, which is the largest target audience, are really interested in exploring culture through food, and food can be a key element of the experience. We've been really working with the pubs on a development program. We've also been creating food networks so they can really support each other, and also festival and events mentoring, so they know what is really important to deliver in a festival, but also how to do it in a sustainable way. And then we also layered a whole series of digital supports, webinars and mentoring. And I guess this is really about future-proofing the industry. This is about creating best-in-class food and drink industry that can really deliver economic growth. And then in 2020, I suppose the key thing here is to build on this great base that we've created in 2019. So we are going to continue to deliver to develop those 5 program pillars that I talked about. We are really going to focus on sustainability. You know, as we've talked about, sustainability is key. Food has a really has an opportunity to put positive messages out there. We have to be careful that there sometimes are negative messages about food waste, etc. And we really have to use food to actually do the positive side of that. The other thing that we'll be doing is really creating and focusing now on sales platforms. So now that we've got the product, we can actually create those distribution channels to push that out in the domestic market, but also in the international market. And the good news is we will be doing an international consumer launch in 2020 with our partners Tourism Ireland and Northern Ireland. And we've continued to grow and develop those stakeholder partnerships so that we can be bigger and better in 2020. And it's just the final piece there is just, it's really about capacity building. It's about ensuring that we develop and continue to develop our food and drink industry such that they can support the wider tourism industry and help us to deliver the economic growth. That's it for me. Thank you very much.